Hey guys, it's Ash and P.
Oh my gosh. Hi. Hello.
Hi.
I'm a little bit of a stickler. A stickler. A stickler. There's that word. Pickle.
You're a strict stickler.
Strict stickler. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, did I just step in his piss? That's what I'm thinking, right? Hey guys, it's Ash and P.
No. We're back.
Yeah. Yep. That one. Good thing you can slice. Good thing you can slice. Oh my gosh.
Music is by Dust Bowl Champion. To hear Dust Bowl Champion's newest hits, search Dust Bowl Champion on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you get your music. Hey guys, it's Ash and P.
Hey.
Sorry, I was going to say good morning, P, but I felt like it's too late to be good morning.
I know.
So I got caught off guard. I don't know why I'm always so awkward.
I know. Well, I feel like it's like that 11 to 12 period. Even when I'm doing emails, it's like, it's still, I would say good morning, but only because it's still considered AM. But people are probably like, good morning. I mean, my day's halfway done.
I know. I hate sending emails. Sometimes I just wait until after 12.
Noon.
Like if I'm getting close to noon,
Yeah.
I'll wait so that I can just send it that way. Or I hate if I've started an email and I haven't sent it and then I finish it and send it and then realize it changed from morning to afternoon.
Oh, I know. I've done that.
So obnoxious.
Or I'm like, I need to send the same email to multiple people, like after the fact. And then and then I'm forwarding and I'm like, oh, I need to make sure. Am I like,
Yes.
what did I say in the beginning? Because usually my emails start off with good morning or good afternoon, So.
Yes. Do you notice if other people say the wrong one?
No, I don't.
No. See, because that's what some of my coworkers are like, nobody else cares. I'm like, well, I don't know. I notice it if someone
Yeah.
says good morning. But the reality about an email is that only the person writing it is actually for sure seeing it at that time of day.
Yeah.
Like I hate writing. I was sending like we're having a fundraiser coming up and I was sending an email to a donor and I was like, oh gosh, how do I start this? Because I was doing it was like a Saturday in the afternoon. And so I'm like, they're not going to see it. So if I say afternoon, they get it in the morning, then I look like a weirdo. I feel like we should just be able to go straight into an email.
Good day. Good day, sir.
That's what I'm going to start using moving forward. I love it.
Well, how are things going for you this week?
This week is going good. This week's not crazy. Thankfully, this week was very easy for me. We had, I had something for Jackson. Like he had his competition last weekend, and then we had a thing for like family and friends the next day, which is kind of like, oh my gosh, why does it have to be scheduled then? But whatever, it was. And then on Thursday, we celebrated from my life group. One of our girls is getting married, so we celebrated her. That was super fun. And then just a concert yesterday for Jackson. Band is really a lot of time.
It
But,
is, yes.
what are you going to
Yeah.
do? So how about you? Your spring break-in?
I'm spring breaking it. It's been a really good week. This is the first time, maybe ever, I don't know, that I've just really like worked very, very minimal. And like I scheduled myself like only a few hours every day. And then I just blocked out time for my kids and I just went and did fun things with them every single day. And we decided to do staycation. The weather was pretty cold everywhere, like we looked at going to Southern California. We looked at going to Arizona. I think I mentioned this in the last podcast, but it just was cold everywhere. And so we decided to stay here and the weather's been fantastic. And so the kids have just had a great time. We've had a great time. I feel like I'm on vacation. Like I feel like I gained 10 pounds this week. is we've just been like everywhere eating whatever, it's like
Yeah.
fries, order nachos, order appetizers of whatever. Um, but so I really need to rein that back next week. But no, we've had so much fun here.
Very, very exciting. So you guys were at the pool yesterday. What was the weather there?
79 and
Okay,
sunny. So it
that's
was warm.
perfect.
Yeah, it was pretty
Yeah.
warm. I dipped in the pool a few times just because I was heating up. But no, the weather was fantastic. The kids had so much fun out there. And I'm like, I rented a day bed that was right in front of the pool. And Georgia's like, oh, that girl over there, she goes to our school. And I was like, she does? And she's like, yeah, she's in third grade. And then all of a sudden, one of the moms is like, Priscilla. And I'm like, hey. Took me a hot minute to figure out who she was. And she was the mom that I talked about a few podcasts ago that her son locked the keys
Oh,
in the
yes.
car. It was
Yes.
her. So she was there with her
Oh,
girlfriends and she'd brought her daughter who is in third grade. She didn't bring her little boys because she's like they're just
oh,
wild and crazy
crazy.
and like,
Yeah.
And so she's like, "Oh my gosh." She was like, "I need to call. I'm going to call the house and see if someone can bring her son because her son would love to play with Danny, in the
Oh,
pool." He didn't end up coming, but
oh,
she's like,
bummer.
next time, he's going to be so mad that Danny was here and he wasn't here. So it was cute.
That's really, really cute. So funny. Sorry. I don't know if you guys can hear
Uh,
this dog barking.
yeah, your neighbor dog needs to like shut up.
Yeah, I cannot stand it. Seriously. Jason met her yesterday and
Ooh.
yeah, I was like, "Did you tell her her dog is annoying?" And the thing is like if I was out in my living room and he was barking, I wouldn't care. Like I care because I'm recording and he's really distracting me. But so my dogs are outside right now though. That's why so I had to message him to tell him to let our dogs in. But I guess they met and she was like, I'm really sorry about my dog Coda. He's really just a big teddy bear. He's all bark. And Jason's like, yeah, it's a little much, he's pretty loud and makes our dogs really skittish. I'm like, did you tell her that our dogs are now peeing and pooping in the house instead of going outside when he's out there? And Jason's like, but she's like, I'm really sorry. I'll try to get on them about like keeping it. They're doing a great job. They're doing phenomenal. So I'm like, well,
I
we'll see when
told
I meet
you,
her.
talk to her. Yeah.
I
Talk.
know, but Jason just talked to her yesterday and she said that she's going to talk to them about staying on him. So
Men do not have the cojones for this. They don't. They
maybe
cannot. They just
I
can't.
just, I like, I don't know. It's just obnoxious. And I don't know if I had mentioned this before, if this was this past week, but in the mornings, I let the dogs out. Like when Jason's not here, I'll let the dogs out so that I can give River medicine. And then, because he has to eat an hour after his medicine. So I'll let him out. So I give him his medicine and then the boys will feed him. Well, either this week or the week before, this is really driving me crazy.
Oh my gosh.
This is going to make me actually go over there and talk to her. I just want it to be like a normal conversation, like where I happen to run into her
Can
so
we
that it's
can
not
can you
me
do it
going
while we're
there.
still doing the podcast?
Recording,
Yeah.
right? Jason, call her over to the window, please. But I go to let the dogs out and I leave for work by like 5:40. So it's early, right? And one day I go to let the dogs out and I'm always like, it's fine, because he's not out there. No, he's out there. I'm like, I guess maybe they didn't take their dog in last night. I don't know what happened, but so obnoxious. River has been a little bit better where he's like waiting at the door to go out now. Whereas before it was like as soon as you open the door, he's like running back. He's not even considering it. So I don't know if maybe he's finally figuring out, my dog's not smart, so maybe he's finally realizing it doesn't matter if there's a dog over there barking. But yeah, it's so annoying. But
Sorry.
what are you gonna do?
I know.
It's fine.
Neighbors.
Yeah. So we'll see. I was telling Malls, I was like talking to her. I'm like, did you say something? She's like, no. I go, oh, because for a while they were pretty good about like if he would start barking, they would take him inside. And she was like, oh, I hope they didn't hear us. I'm like, no, I hope they did hear us. Like,
Uh-huh.
they need to understand. And she was like, oh, and then we're talking, and she's like, says she's a stay at home mom. I'm like, she's a stay at home mom and she can't keep her dog inside? Like, come on now. I'm sorry. My dogs stay inside and I'm not a stay at home person.
Yeah.
So, anywho, enough about stupid dogs. I'm sorry if you guys hear that. I know in editing it will take out background noise. I don't know if it will be able to take him out though.
He's pretty loud.
So,
What kind of dog is he? He's got to be a big dog.
I don't know. I need to
Oh.
go look through the fence and look at him. Yeah. So, I don't know. He's just, which, I mean, he doesn't jump on the fence, so that's good. Molly said the people that are on her backyard, their dogs jump on the fence.
Oh,
She's like,
geez.
they're gonna take the fence down and kill Bootsy. I'm
Oh,
like,
no.
yeah. I'm like, that poor little hood rat.
I know.
She's a little
The,
girl, you know.
the dog Bootsy, not Molly.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Bootsy's a hood rat. Molly's a married woman now. She's changed her ways. I'm just kidding. I didn't know her when she was younger. I don't know if she was a hood rat. That's just a joke. Just kidding. So,
Um, I,
anywho,
I do have to tell you, so I'm, living up life on our staycation every day, and we booked a trip to Mexico with the kids for December. And so we're doing that, whatever, we're doing all this stuff. And not last night, it was Thursday night. Thursday night, we're at home and we get a text. No, we get a call from Tristan. And Tristan's like, um, she was just leaving work. And so she works in Salinas, which is a good like 25 minutes from her apartment, 25 minutes. So she said that her car was like, she goes, my car is hiccuping and it's not going fast on the freeway. And we're like, okay, you need to like get off the freeway. Like, what is it going up to? She's like 25. I'm like, you need to get
on
off
the
the
freeway.
on the freeway.
Oh.
I'm like, you need to get off the freeway. And she's like, well, but we're like, well, she really can't there's not very many like side streets that she can take until a certain point. And so Tony's like, turn it back on, like, turn it off, turn it back off, blah, 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 blah. Well, she's got all these lights popping up, whatever. So, um, I could tell she was freaking out and she had a bad shift. So she was just like stressed out. She gets home and she gets home okay. And I told her, I'm like, we'll call like we'll call a mechanic in the morning and try to get your car in as soon as possible. Um, on Friday, she only has one class, luckily. It's just dealing with work. And then on Monday, she doesn't have class. So it's like, okay, well, um, her car needs some work. So she's going to be without a car until Monday. But like it's just really like it's kind of interesting to see like she's trying to figure it out, right? 'Cause she had to like take the car to the mechanic and drop it off. Although we were the ones like Tony's like called the mechanic and told him, call me and let me know, I'll deal with that part, like with what's going on with the car. I don't want her to deal with it. And it's like, okay, well then she's got to figure out, like she asked her roommate for a ride to, after the mechanic, if she could pick her up and take her back home. Can she take her? She's going to take her to work, I think today, her roommate. And then she's gonna call. She told her boss she can't work Monday because her shift on Monday, because she doesn't go to school, is like 11 to 7. It's all day, and her car's gonna be ready Monday. So she's like, I don't want to like be in the middle of my shift and I need to go pick up my car. I'd rather have my car, and be ready.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, if you want me to, pay for Ubers or whatever, we can just get you an Uber. Because at first I was like, do we rent her a car? And Tony's like, I don't think we rent her a car. I'm like, really? And then I was like, well, I guess we can just pay for her Ubers, right? Like that's like maybe another different way, I guess, that we can go around it. Luckily, one of her roommates is willing and able to like get her to a few places and stuff, but it's just one of those weird things that we haven't really had to run into yet with a kid being away from us, going to school, and then like
Yeah.
having to figure out like, oh, we have a car situation we need to deal with. So,
And I mean, I do not envy her because I hate to deal with mechanic stuff myself. So being, her age and having to deal with it, not having anyone around to be able to go with her,
yeah,
I do not envy her, that's for sure.
I
That
know.
sucks
I
so
know.
bad.
That was a big growing pain right there, but a good stepping stone for her to take and like, okay, mom and dad can help a bit, but like,
That's the air horn. So apparently, when I messaged Jason, hello, he's being loud and annoying, he was like, here, let me see if I can join in. Gosh. Any men that are listening, don't do annoying stuff like that. Your wives don't like you to be extra annoying. And you know what? He hasn't responded to any of the 5 messages I've sent him about it either.
why don't
Two
we
of them
take
say hello.
Why don't we take our break now and
Gosh.
you can go
Okay.
handle them and then we'll
Okay.
be right back. Segment music by Callie Grace. For more of Callie Grace's hits, follow Callie Grace on iTunes and Spotify today. Hey guys, we're back.
Hey.
Ashley has murdered the dog and Jason,
I didn't, but
and
that
now
may have
it's
solved a few
quiet.
things. It is. It is. My poor husband did not realize that I don't know why he didn't, because before I came in here to record, I told him, okay, we're going to be recording, so don't be too loud, because he's in the garage doing things. And so he knew we were recording. I don't know what the heck happened when he came in, and apparently he didn't know that I was asking him to let our dogs in. And so he probably saw my 5 messages and was like, I'll handle this, and just forgot. So, yeah, fun stuff. Fun stuff.
Well, anyway, I would love to discuss Ashley's conspiracy corner today.
You would love to discuss it?
I would love to.
I'm excited. Okay. So, this is going to be about Dr. Fauci and the COVID cover up. So in episode 103, that was when I had brought it up. This was after he had been pardoned, and I kind of started to mention a little bit of the documentary that I had watched. Thank you, Dr. Fauci. So just a couple of things that I hit on the episode, because I know it's been a little bit back, but I had talked about the first part of the movie where they talked about Fauci kind of pushing out the CDC director, Robert Redfield,
Yes.
and how he became like the face for COVID. And then sorry, I have all of my little notes, and then the fact that he was so against the possibility of it being a lab leak, like he didn't even want to look into that. And the scientist Christian Andersen, his concern about the origins. And originally, he kind of had started out as a whistleblower. And then shortly after, there was a video conference that Fauci had with Christian Andersen. There were a few other scientists. I can't remember their names right now, but I know I talk about them later in this. I have their names written down. But so he had a call with all of them. They mention the big ask and that type of thing. And then the press conference that Fauci mentions a study by highly qualified evolutionary virologists that he couldn't recall their names at the time, but they were the ones that just so happened to all of the ones on the call. There were a few of them that actually wrote the proximal origin column about how COVID came from bats, how it came from bats into humans and all of that. So there were a couple of questions that you asked at the end of that episode. Now, do you want me to go over everything before we talk about the questions?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Perfect. So this may, because it is like almost a 2-hour documentary, so it may take a while for me to get through all of it because there are a lot of things that are kind of like things that have happened in the past that all of this kind of ties together to what I think the deal is. But the documentary, like the guy who's doing the documentary, Jenner Furst, Furst, he asked, like, why would he cover it up? His thing is he thinks that he's protecting people higher up on the ladder. I'm not certain that that's the case, but that's what he thinks. The U.S. government has been involved. It's not like COVID would be the first bioweapon or like study type thing that the government's involved in. Like, there's the Tuskegee vaccine, the syphilis vaccine, right, where they were giving all of these men syphilis. There was Lyme disease. I don't know if you're familiar with that little issue. So, and it just so happened that during the pandemic that Congress starts investigating Lyme. So, with the Lyme disease, the first reports of Lyme disease in like I want to say 75. I could be wrong, but it's somewhere around there. No, it is 75. Sorry, I have it written down. In 75, it's an augmented strain of Rocky Mountain fever, which was always only in Colorado. And then all of a sudden, there's an outbreak in 1975 all the way across the country in Lyme, Connecticut, which is just miles away from. It's scary that we even have these things, but it's Plum Island Animal Disease Control. It's a bioweapons research lab in Long Island, New York. I get that they have to do studies on these types of things, but it is so scary because then things like this happens. Like the researcher credited with discovering Lyme disease is a bioweapons specialist. So like it didn't just happen naturally, right? So there's like those controversies that seem to come from the whole Tuskegee experiment, that doesn't seem to come from the government. That was literally the government injecting these like over 600 men with syphilis. But the whole Lyme disease, obviously, that's more of like, I guess it's not 100% out there that that's exactly what it is. But in the mid to late 90s, Cheney, he's obviously not VP at that point, he decides that the government needs to pursue a more aggressive biodefense research program. He's a part of something called the Project for New American Century. This is like, there is actually stuff on the internet for this. This isn't stuff that like he said, she said kind of stuff. So that is a manifesto about how America is going to, in the 21st century, grow its empire in energy dominance, the military power, and that all of this is possible if there's an attack on U.S. soil. So that's like 96 or so, right? In 2001, Cheney becomes VP. We were so lucky. But then in September, what happens? September, we have 9/11, okay, attack on American soil. So that created the war on terror. And then in October, there's an anthrax. Do you remember the anthrax hoax?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
So then that's the war on bioterror. So because of that anthrax hoax, Cheney is able to completely deregulate the bio defense, get it out of the Pentagon. Before that, all of that stuff was in the Pentagon. He's able to get it out of the Pentagon. He finds one department and one official who will agree. Do you have a guess of who that official would be?
No.
Anthony Fauci.
Oh.
So now Anthony Fauci becomes, he has access to billions of dollars to fund all of these risky experiments. Research. Okay, we'll call it research, right? No oversight of the government because now they've taken it out of the Pentagon. And this is all over an anthrax hoax who the hoaxer mysteriously commits suicide. I mean, we've never seen that anywhere, right?
Never. Never.
So, he's in charge, right? There's a few times throughout history that Fauci, after he's now in charge of NIH, right? There's sometimes that he gets brought up in controversy. In 2005, there was controversy around them, the genetic reconstruction of the Spanish flu. So like almost 100 years after the Spanish flu has been dormant, they decide, let's bring it back. Let's bring it back. Which is insane. Not sure why you would do that, but they do end up bringing it back. There's another controversy in 2012 where Fauci again is linked to a scientist who researches the bird flu. So they manipulated it so that it would be easier to transmit from birds to mammals. So it will now be airborne, right? That particular incident with the bird flu is, if it would have leaked, it could have killed 20 to 50% of the world's population, not just like local, right? And we see that in COVID, right? This lab is in one area and then it ends up all over the world. So, after the bird flu situation, they, instead of getting like disciplined or whatever for it, him and a couple of other researchers end up writing an op-ed in, I think it was the Washington Post, where he says that it was a flu risk worth taking. So he did not regret it, and it would have been a mistake to not do that research.
What was his reasoning for that?
Well, he's always been, well, I shouldn't say always, but people that have known him from back when say that he has always felt that you need to create a pandemic to be able to respond to a pandemic. So to be able to survive it and respond to it, you need to create it. I don't know. He's he's to me he's crazy. He doesn't care about the risks, in my opinion. Like, you have this, like with the flu, the Spanish flu. You're willing to, they didn't know. I don't think they knew what the transmission was for the Spanish flu or anything like that. Now they're messing around with it when it's not even a concern. You're basically bringing it back to life, and who knows what could have happened. This bird flu, they could have killed 20 to 50% of the world's population, but it's a risk worth taking. On There's a clip where he's on stage with another scientist, and the other doctor, scientist, whatever, says it would be a horrible tragedy if SARS or one of the viruses were to leak out of the lab, but that they could contain it and we wouldn't see a global pandemic. But they knew in 1977 their H1N1 was an accidental release from a lab. So they knew that it could happen. They knew that something could potentially get out. They're still doing all of these crazy things. Now, why scientists do these things, I don't know that I quite understand that. I feel like there's probably something to it being like, look what I did. I was able to do this and look what I did, right? I I kind of think that it's probably a lot to do with ego. Maybe some of them really do think that they're going to find a solution or like a vaccine or something like that to help fight it. I don't know. I'm not quite sure where any of that comes from. But it's wild. And then in 2014, so just a couple years after this bird flu thing, in 2014, there's an Ebola outbreak in West Africa. The strain, it had never been seen in West Africa. It was found like 2,000 miles away. These are areas where it's not like, it's not like the United States where people are all around, people are flying from one place to another, right? These are like rural communities and things like that in West Africa. But there's this journalist, Sam Husseini, and he wants to look into it. He's just a little suspicious about it. So he looks into it. Apparently the scientists were saying that the Ebola outbreak was linked back. They traced it back to this boy in this little community called like Miliondo or something like that. I don't know how to say it. But so the journalist goes there and he talks to the dad. The healthcare workers, none of them think that this little boy actually died from Ebola. But there is a lab in Sierra Leone that was suspected of being the potential source of the outbreak. There's a doctor from Doctors Without Borders that goes there. She refuses to step foot in this lab in Sierra Leone because of the conditions. Now, this lab that she refuses to step foot into has connections to people like Christian Andersen, that scientist that was originally seeming like maybe he was going to be a whistleblower. Bob Gary, who was also on that call and signed the proximal origin research paper. They're both linked to that lab. And sorry guys, I live by an airport, so it gets loud. They actually got money from Fauci and Jeremy Farrar, the chief scientist of WHO, for that lab. Peter Daszak is saying that the culprit of this spread is bats. It's bats. So it's always bats, right? Like you're hearing that about COVID, you hear about that here. They're always using the same thing. During the Ebola pandemic, Fauci has this doctor from Dallas who had Ebola. He has her transported to the NIH clinic in Washington, D.C., puts on like one of those suits, with the astronaut suit where they have the whole helmet thing on, everything's covered up, and walks in with a photographer and does a photo op. Like that to me is concerning, that those are the types of things that he cares about. Like to me, if you're so concerned with science and public health, you should really be focusing on those types of things. You shouldn't be so concerned about doing a photo op. That's just my opinion. But so after the Ebola outbreak, there's a ban on gain of function. A lot of people think that gain of function, that ban, that policy was violated, and that they continued doing gain of function in Wuhan. There's someone named David Asher. He was at the State Department and began investigating the origin. And he found all of these crazy connections between the Wuhan lab and the NIH. In 2015, the Wuhan Institute of Virology and the U.S. was actually involved. So they launched a global recruitment plan, and the U.S. was actually involved in them finding scientists. So like the NIH actually matched scientists with that program. So they're recruiting like our most sensitive biologists to go to Wuhan, right? So the Wuhan lab is, I don't know if it still is, but at least when it was being built, it was the highest level of security that China would have. I guess it's called BSL-4. I don't know what that is, but apparently it's the highest level for a lab. They actually were partnering with the French to build this lab, and the day that it opened, they kicked the French out. So the French were kind of like, okay, like what's going on? Like, are they potentially going to use it as like a bioweapons lab, right? So maybe there's some involvement in having the U.S. start to kind of spy on the Chinese and get involved there because of that. Maybe that's how we get involved with it, because the French have this concern now. Not quite sure if that's what it is, but so Peter Daszak, he was big in emerging infectious disease and potential biological weapons. Apparently he told one of his employees who worked for him, he told him, hey, can I ask you a question? He's like, the CIA came to me and they are interested in the places that we're doing research, who we're doing the research with, and the data that we're collecting. Do you think it's like a good idea to work with them? So that was Andrew Huff. He's a PhD that worked with Daszak, and he was like, at that point, I felt like he was already working with the CIA, with the CIA on this. So CIA sounds like they're involved. Obviously, that's back some time ago, and then in 2017, the NIH lifted a ban to continue doing gain of function research. And in a press conference, Fauci even says it's not going to be foolproof. Things are going to slip through. So he has said that. There's been a doctor in the past that says that they can contain it, right? But obviously not. Um, so, anywho, now they're working with Wuhan, right? And Wuhan, they have the CEO of Moderna is running research out of that program too, or out of that lab too.
Okay, really quick, because for those that are not sitting in a conspiracy corner all the time, I needed to really quick pull up what is gain of function
Oh,
research. And so what it says is it's introducing a mutation that would allow influenza B to infect rabbits in a controlled laboratory situation. Does
so
that sound about right?
so the gain of function is going to be, yes, when they are mutating this, it could be influenza B, but really any virus,
Any,
so
yes.
that it transmits, so that it's not it's it's essentially not going through the transmission. I had talked to you about it before, how to do like a proximity of origin would be, this is how things naturally transmit from like an animal to a human,
Right,
and the virus has to really learn what to do to be able to attack the
right,
human. But
right,
this is yes, they're mutating it so that it's it's learning faster how to attack us, right? Or
right,
the rabbit or whatever.
right.
So yes, so gain of function, that they decided to put a ban on it because of everything that happened with Ebola and all of that. So then in 2017, they they lift the ban so that they can keep doing research. I do believe, and I should have looked this up, but I do believe that the ban still existed for stateside labs. Like in the US, you cannot be doing gain of function research. So, and maybe that's kind of what the lift in 17 was, that you couldn't do gain of function stateside, but if you're doing it in other labs or whatever, then that's fine. But so the when they're creating the lab for the Wuhan lab, assisting in the design of it is the Moderna CEO. So Stefan Bancel, I think is how you say his last name. He has a relationship with them, and he helps them to design it, and they start doing research for a coronavirus vaccine. And they're wanting to create a virus to launch their mRNA platform, and they're using research from the Wuhan lab. So we start hearing about COVID in December of 2019, but it really probably started in September. So about 3 months before there were ever reports, there were Wuhan lab workers that were falling sick, and we didn't hear about it until December, but the US actually knew about it because they had intelligence that the military had taken over the lab. So in Wuhan, the military took over the lab. They were
Military, U.S. military or Chinese military?
Chinese. The Chinese military took over the lab. They were doing drills at the airport. They they have all of this information back in 2019. I'm sorry, in October of 2019. They have this information. In October of 2019, so this is after people start falling sick at the lab. They have the World Military Games there, which I didn't even know that was a thing,
Yeah,
but
I didn't know that was a
apparently it
thing
is.
either.
Okay. So there's teams from all over the world that are there in October to compete. Some of them get sick. Countries with the most teams there seem to have the largest, like, they seem to start having the outbreaks. So, like France, Italy, Iran, United States. Apparently, those countries had large numbers of teams in these military games, and they start seeing the outbreak. And then in December, or on December 12th of 2019, this is before we, the public, start hearing about any of this. There's a information sharing agreement between Moderna, NIH, and another scientist that they talk about, Ralph Barrick's, his lab, where they are sharing info on an mRNA vaccine. And just so happens that they consider it a coincidence. But so that sharing agreement, the information sharing agreement, that happens December 12th of 2019. And then January 13th, 2020, only 2 days after, the Chinese published the genetic sequence of COVID-19, that the NIH and Moderna signed a vaccine deal worth almost $50 billion. So Fauci and a group of scientists, that's when they that's when they start really going for, it's a wet market, it's a wet market, like this is coming from a wet market. It's not a lab leak, right? And so then it becomes really politicized. Obviously, we're all very aware that one side took one stance, one side took another stance, and that it's very politicized. And Fauci becomes very big on the scene. He is like Mr. Science, right? Like if you're questioning him, you're questioning science. Nobody can question him. Nobody can question the vaccine. Like people start talking badly about, like, they start talking about like unvaccinated, and like start to kind of make it seem like, oh, the unvaccinated are these uneducated, like backroads people, when really the COVID vaccine, the largest population of unvaccinated for the COVID vaccine were Black people. And if you think about the experiments that the government has done, if I was a part of a culture where this experiment was done, I don't think I'd want to take the vaccine
Right.
either.
Yes,
You know,
absolutely.
like, I mean, I didn't take the vaccine anyway, but I think I would have had my concerns with the vaccine were more, it's very new. To me, that's scary, just because you don't know, like I I know it's not a vaccine, but when I used to take my anti-anxiety medications, the medication had been around for years, and I was taking it, and I was breastfeeding Jackson, and I was struggling a lot with my anxiety, and I asked his pediatrician, can I start taking my medication? And she told me that she would rather me stop breastfeeding and take my medication than for me to take the medication and breastfeed him, because there just were not enough enough studies done on it, because the medication was too new to really determine how it's going to impact an infant whose mother is breastfeeding them. Because even though the medication had been around for years, you have to follow that kid for like what, 25 years probably,
Yeah.
to really find out, once their brain is fully developed, like how it's impacted them.
Yeah.
So if that's the case for medication that has been around for a while, then I don't know that I'm super comfortable with taking a vaccine that was just created. Like I don't know what's going to happen in 10, 15 years. But if I were a part of a culture where the government had run an experiment on me, I definitely would be questioning it. But so there goes a lot of division, right? A lot of like, you can't question anything. If you're not doing it, you're not doing your part. If you're not doing it, you're uneducated. Stuff like that is being said. So instead of it being just like a health thing, it turns into something crazier. Um, but so anywho, sorry, I
Well,
got off on a
I
little
really quick,
tangent.
I was just going to say, I just felt like it became a weapon. I mean, really, that's really what happened. They turned it into a weapon. And I mean, we've talked about this. It's like it caused so much division between everyone,
Yeah.
friends, family, couples that were on different sides of things. Your jobs, all of that came into play. And I was telling, we were just talking about this on Thursday with a gal here. We were talking a little bit about COVID and everything and kind of that time in our life. And I said, I unfortunately we lost some friendships over that time. And I said, but I I don't like what you want to do with your body is your choice. I've never had a problem with anyone that is vaccinated. Just because I'm not and you decided to, that's your choice. You're taking that chance just like I'm taking my chance. And I'm lucky enough that even between Tony and I and our differences there, we kind of came to a respect of each other's different opinions. And over time, has changed. But in the beginning, he wasn't happy that I was so against it, um, and I wasn't gonna back down. And he knows how I am. Once I say something, right, it's not happening. I'm stubborn that way, but I just feel like it really did become a way for people to get to isolate themselves from people that they love. And I think that even I was nervous that it was a new drug. However, I to me I questioned everything because of how much of a push everyone was giving it, right? So when someone is like you have to do you and it becomes this, I mean it became a huge big ordeal to the point where I was like, I don't think I like no. Mm-mm. Something's not right here. And I'm not doing it. And maybe, this is just a choice that I'm going to have to make and I'm going to have to take. And if no one wants to see me and then I guess no one's going to see me because I'm not doing it. And the more you push and shove something down my throat, and especially when it's not coming from just friends and family. This is coming from like politicians. This is
Yeah.
coming from the government basically saying, if you want to go to work and keep your job, you have to take this. Otherwise, you're out there walking around trying to kill people is basically what you're telling me because I don't get the vaccination, I'm walking around and I don't give a shit about people and I want to kill them, which is the most dumbest thing that I was just like this none of this makes sense. And these people's arguments, I think it's ridiculous. And I mean, look at everything that's come out now, but right or wrong, whoever did it or didn't do it, I just think like for me, I did not care if someone did or didn't. It wasn't like you were only going to be my friend through COVID if you didn't get the vaccine or whatever. It wasn't that way. It just, I wish that people would have respected people better. And I wish that everyone, especially when the government, and this is part of the issue I see today is it's like they've become so like their hands are in every effing pot. Get your hands out of these pots. I don't trust anything anymore because you're in everything. And I'm not okay with that. That's not the country that we have. That's not what our founding fathers created this country for.
Right.
For you to dictate and for you to basically trick people or tell people what they have to do, how they have to be, how they have to see people, how they have to believe on things. And if you don't, then you're in the wrong. Okay, if I wanted that lifestyle, I would go to a dictatorship styled country. This is not what our country was built upon. And so I'm on my soapbox. I'll get off and let you finish, but I'm just saying, like, I think that was the biggest thing is it became a weapon.
Yeah, it did. And I think that's probably actually a good place for us to cut it. And we'll continue and finish. We'll be able to finish the last part of it on our next episode. But you're absolutely right. I think weaponizing it is the perfect way to say it because it really was used as a way to get people to fall in line or fall out. And I don't think that it should ever be that way. I think there are always going to be people that like you shouldn't have to do, right? Like if let's say X is best for everyone, there's still going to be people that it's not best for. And you should never be forced into doing something because you won't be able to fly. You won't be able to work. You won't be able to see family members. You won't, all of the things that, and they did, they did talk about that, making things inconvenient. The way you get people to do what you want them to do is you make living that way so inconvenient that they just fall in line. And we shouldn't ever have to make decisions, especially something that could potentially affect your health. We shouldn't have to make those decisions
Right.
because you're wanting us to fall in line. We should be able to make those decisions because that is truly what is best for us. There are a lot of people that aren't going to have issues with it, but then there are people that are going to have issues with it, and you shouldn't be forced into it. So it is a little crazy, but yeah, hopefully next episode I'll get through it, and then I can tell you the three questions that you had asked after our first conversation about it. I can tell you what my thoughts are on that.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Ashley. Thanks for putting your foil hat on and doing some research for us. And I enjoy
Again, we're gonna
your
have to switch
corner.
out of foil because foil is
Oh, it's
not
bad for
healthy.
you. Okay.
Remember?
Your
Yes,
your
but thanks
glass
for yeah,
glass
my
antenna.
glass hat. I will wear a glass hat. That's perfect. But yeah, thanks for following along on that twist and turny conspiracy corner.
Yeah. We'll see you guys. Thanks. Thanks for swapping.